Here we are again with the Next Fix podcast. Today we've got Jason. And so Jason's story wasn't shooting heroin on the corner, doing anything, too treacherous, which is a blessing. However, things needed to change for him. And so that's what we're going to hear about today. We're going to hear about his story and when he started realizing his life wasn't exactly ideal. So Jason, I'm super excited to have you here, brother. How you living? I know we're on two different coasts here. We're living two different corners.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Your life is good. Yeah, out here in Seattle, we just moved a couple months ago to help us start a church. My wife is a pastor at the church as well, and it's been a really good, exciting adventure and challenge. We've been out in the Seattle area for about 2.5 months now. Moved from Wisconsin. We have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, and that's where we're at right now.
Well, okay, that's all the great times, man. But this is how we do things around here. I want to know when things weren't great. I want to know what was the come to Jesus moment, right? Like when were you thinking this is not exactly how it should be, or something's got to change? So what did that look like for you?
Sure. So let's get right into it. So first of all, I'd say I was raised a very conservative Christian home. Didn't really start doing any I didn't drink until I was 19. Didn't get high until I was 23, right after college. And from there, I'm in sales, I'm in direct sales. And so it's a very high achieving, fast paced, rise to the top. A lot of my self-worth was based on my accolades and my titles and my sales weeks. And so it was very easy to work hard and then also party hard. And I just remember grinding it out, in my 20s, pretty much, 12-hour days, 6 days a week. Saturday after work, I'd go grab a 6 to 12 pack, just chill, be by myself, and just drain for the week. And I just drink a bunch of them, chill, wake up the next morning, go to church, and then get started on my easy half day for a 5 or 6 hour day on Sunday. And
all right, so you
started.
Yeah, and so that's it. You're grinding. You're not afraid of a solid work week. And bless you for that, man. I don't look down upon that, but again, it's not always ideal. Mm-hmm. And so in your 20s, though, and you're laying it out because, and the nonchalant delivery that you use is because that's kind of normal. I think you're working more than the average person. However, it is work all week. Yep. I've earned my beer. I've earned my weed or whatever I'm doing. I've earned this, reset or, whatever it is for people. But that's normal. That's just kind of what we're programmed with. That's what you do. And some people indulge, in the relaxation or the coming down part more than others, right? However, it's so very normal, man. And so you're cruising along, and I imagine you're doing well. You're hitting the metrics, right? You're probably bringing in some cash. You're in your early 20s. How long did you keep that pace, and how long did you keep that kind of regimen?
Yeah, through my 20s. Yeah, so I'd say throughout all my 20s. Yeah, all my 20s, but I was addicted to it. I loved it. It was my thing I was building. It was something I loved, and it was just what I did. I partied and I worked hard, and it's not that I got sick of it. It's I just had to kind of grow up. I ended up getting married, obviously, and having kids, and so I would say once I got married, I had to slow down a little bit, and that's when I started waking up. Is my wife helped me and a couple other things, but which we can get into. But it was that pace all throughout my 20s, and even at the beginning of marriage, it wasn't great. I'd say for about a decade there in my 30s, it was either a couple drinks at night or a half a weed gummy. It was nothing that was I wasn't getting blazed, I wasn't getting drunk, but it was enough of a buzz to chill out after a tough work day, because I was programmed to think, how else can I win? Who else can I reach out to? How else can I create business? And I just felt like I was always on until I switched. And my mental switch was, okay, half a weed gummy or a couple drinks and time to chill. And it was my excuse to be present. My excuse to not feel like I had to work, but I wasn't fully present and I was just kind of numbing myself. And I look back at some videos and things that I felt I was fine, but I definitely the way I responded and the way I was acting, I could tell I was a little off, but not fully myself.
Wow. Okay. All right. All right. But there's a lot of things here, right? Because, okay, your wife is a pastor, and I'm imagining that she wasn't eating the weed gummy. And so that I'm sure had, there's an opinion there, very important opinion, the mother of your children and your wife. But wow, man. And so again, as the more of these talks that I have, addiction comes in so many different forms. And so I am a firm believer, for somebody who has a substance abuse issue, I'm always like, well, look, you've got to become addicted to something else that's useful and that's helpful.
Yeah.
However, there's a bit of a cautionary tale there too, right? Because you can go too far. And here you are, you're clearly addicted to success. You were clearly addicted to your job too.
Yep.
And I say all the time, I'm like, okay, Mother Teresa was addicted to peace, right? There's no doubt. She put herself in harm's way. She was obsessed, right? But it's hard to really, shame her for that, because it's such a glorious and humble and noble pursuit. And then you have Steve Jobs. No doubt that guy was an addict for working hard. So everybody's journey is different. And so there is a cautionary tale. Now, there's no doubt being addicted to, earning income and a life for your family is better than heroin. I'm going to say that, right? But here you are, right? You're clearly more addicted to your job than you are even the beers and the weed, even though you're acknowledging that, looking back, hindsight is 2020. You weren't all there. Now, was that really like when your brain started, like, and you started noticing that? Was that like when you started to, realize that there's an issue here?
No, it was actually, so my wife nagging me a lot about it and calling me out for it. And she's like, this isn't good. And I knew it became a problem when I started hiding it. And I would be sneaking beers. So I'd have the same brand, and I had extras in the fridge or outside, and you couldn't tell if it was my first or third one. So I'd sneak away to get another one. And I would, she would never really know if I was having it, if it was my first or third one. So I'd probably say 5 or 6 nights a week, Ryan. It was that game. And I started realizing it was a problem too when, I was looking forward to it. And it was something 3 or 4 o'clock rolled around. I'm like, okay, it's almost my chill time, 5:30. I can crack open a beer or sneak a weed gummy and just chill. And so that was an issue. It even got to be, there were a few times where, so she wouldn't see it. I'd go pick up, it'd basically be like a road beer, between picking up my boys from school or their daycare, and being able to stop at the gas station quick to grab one so I could sneak, chug it, or before I went into the house or before the boys saw it. And it was something that definitely wasn't healthy and wasn't good. So I knew it wasn't great, but I was justifying it. And the final straw, I'd say, Ryan, was in our couples counseling. I probably go on average once a month or so, some type of coaching there. And we were bringing it up in the session, and I was explaining and justifying, and our couples counselor is like, yeah, that sounds like some addictive tendencies. And that shook me. I'm like, an addict? What are you talking about? I'm just chilling. I'm just vegging out. I'm turning off work so I can be with the family and be a better dad and be present. And thankfully, from all my wife's challenging and the couples counselor waking me up a little bit, it helped me realize, holy cow, I need to change. This is not good. And I wasn't fully sold on fully cutting things out, but I did meet with a really good friend. His name's Keith from church. He used to be a big addict on a lot of drugs, and he's gone through all this stuff and helped a lot of people through church, through some of his coaching and help. And so I sat down with him at a coffee shop, and I was like, yeah, here's what's going on. And he's like, yeah, man, you're definitely on a path of what all addicts eventually, it's basically where addicts start. And if you don't cut it off, you don't make a change, you're at the same position where a lot of people are at, and they just don't catch it or make a change. And then it ends up being really bad. And I didn't believe it was going to get that way, but obviously I didn't want to risk it. And so, yeah, he challenged me that day to go home and throw all my weed gummies out. And he gave me a hard time about it, teased me, challenged me. I said, yeah, I'm going to do it. So went home, did that. And then, that was in June of 2023. So I may still have a drink here and there, for special occasions or out to dinner or something, but it's not an issue anymore. We don't have I'm not buying alcohol for the home, or it's not something that's a regular thing. It's like once a month, maybe, where we'll have a glass of wine or a drink or something. But it's really been eye-opening and freeing to not have that as a crutch or a vice each night.
You're a believer. I'm a believer.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that you've really explained thus far is really great proactive work on your end, and good relationship work between you and your wife, and super healthy, man. Like it's, I almost get envious of people that like they don't have to have like 5 DUIs and you know what I mean? I'm like, man, I really what it would be like if I just wasn't so resilient to my own issues. And so, but that's a blessing, man. That's great. And that is awesome. But during all of that, like, I guess, where was your faith? How was that kind of going on? And do you feel, you know, did it get in the way of that? Or do you feel like, maybe in the midst of all of the usage and, do you feel like maybe God was talking to you, or kind of sent you any kind of, serendipitous signs, other than your friend and of course your wife, but like, how did you feel about that, like along the way?
Yeah, I would say I knew God was really important. I was pursuing a better relationship with Jesus. I was very involved in church, leading life groups, and thought it was cool. I was fine to, have a drink or two and chill with even, other people from church. And it was something where I don't know if it got in the way. I mean, looking back, I'm assuming it did, but really it was just a mind switch of diving all into my faith that helped. And it kind of came around that same time. In June of 2023 is when I basically cut off, doing, any kind of substance. And then since then, it was also a submission. It was almost like God was saying, I'm ready for you. I have this abundant life for you, of peace and joy. Stop it. Like, you're numbing yourself. You're relying on these substances instead of me. You are pursuing success and wealth and chill time with your substances instead of pursuing me. And there were all these things that just fell into place once I finally submitted. So when it came to that timing of June of 2023, then I was I'm part of a young, like a Christian business group. And one of the guys talked about how he's been praying a prayer that is, search me, break me, send me. It's a longer prayer, but essentially it's like, God, search me. Where am I falling? Where am I at fault? How can I be used more? And what's stopping me from being used? And then same thing with break me, like break me my pride, break me my ego, break me my addictions, break me of anything else that's withholding me from being fully used by you, and send me to where you want me to go. And that was really scary because I didn't want to go to Africa and a village and be
Washington.
A missionary, but I want to be used. And so what's funny enough, Brian, is
you just got sent. Yeah, it's not Africa, but you're like, oh, Washington will do.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. So in that time, it's like, all right, well, I decided to get rebaptized, which I'd wanted to for a while, but it's almost like God was waiting for me to fully clear some things out to submit and then fully surrender to Him. And then so that August, I got rebaptized. I got baptized in middle school. It was more for my parents because I was supposed to, not necessarily because of my own faith and wanting to just share that. And then sure enough, a few months later, our church kind of came to us as like, hey, our young adults ministry is looking for leaders. How do you guys feel about that? So we took over our young adults ministry, and that was in January of 2024. And then we've been so blessed. God's been over all of this and helping us grow, and then us to be ready and faithful to come out where we feel we're being called out across the country, out to Seattle area. And it's just been so cool, Ryan, to see how God was there and ready, and how quickly things happened, and how quickly we grew together after I just cleaned some of those things up. And so it was always there. An opportunity was there, but I don't know if it was more of me realizing it and fully surrendering to His plan instead of my own plan, or if it was God just saying, okay, dummy, stop it. We have such an abundant life and impact waiting for you. Clean up some of your stuff so I can start using you. And now it's so cool is I love sharing the story because it's great. I'm sure a lot of people were there. or are there. And I can help, especially leading young adults. That's right in the time where a lot of these things start getting out of hand. And our the best person we can coach and disciple is our former self, like who we used to be. And so now I have this great experience, I would say, or a lesson learned, I should say, that I can be real with people, relate to them, but also share what I've done and how much free I am and how much more peace and joy I have, and how God has been able to use me now to impact a lot more than I was prior.
Right. And that's, turning your test into a testimony, right? And I believe wholeheartedly in that. But search me, break me, send me, right? And I think that, man, I've been praying about this recently, is that, humility. And I think that everybody's journey, like, man, like I had to be, I'm so stubborn. It took some special lessons, and, I learned the hard way. I'm still learning. Right.
Yep.
And so I think that, that break me part for myself was just, it was so deep, man. I was just talking about the other day that I was like, actually, like at one of my jobs, I was like cleaning, I was in toilet water and I was wearing rubber pants. I didn't know it was toilet water until like a week of working in this thing. I had like a rake and I saw like floating condoms, not feces, but condoms. And I said, this is somebody's toilet water. And I thought, and I don't look badly on that time. It was part of the break me. It was part of the break me. And this is what I needed as a person, because I am just that stubborn. And so I love how deeply you've jumped and committed into the send me part, that you and your wife's a pastor now, and that you're kind of cleansed. Like you said, like he's like, hey, you just got to clean up a little bit, man, to get your focus clear and then be committed. And so how does that look like these days that you are, so clearly you're working with the youth ministry, which is, again, the youth knows, man, like if you're somebody who's never like, enjoyed marijuana, or you're somebody who's never been to a party, like they can smell it on you, right? Like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, like, and so it's so valuable to have somebody that has some street cred. But in addition to that, what did you develop as a result, right? Because now, like you have foregone, the kind of money-driven sales, hardcore, lifestyle. What's it look like these days?
Yeah. Well, a lot of sparkling water. A lot of sparkling water, but also, so there's a few ways I'm thinking of how to take that. So first of all, yeah, it just, so you mentioned before in the podcast, you want to replace things. And so I found things and other ways that I can just replace that. And I don't want to replace it with social media, right? Because that's another addiction and a bad thing. But it's replacing, if I really like that, that nice like trigger and that nice, bottle pop, a nice, fresh, refreshing can of sparkling water. I always tease my wife for all of her sparkling water, and now that's all I have. I have them, and so that's great. But also, anytime I'm like tempted or I'm feeling down or in a place where I would have normally resorted to a weed gummy or alcohol, it's prayer, worship music. And for me, being a big Jesus guy, it's like that fills me up, and that does light years more than having a drink or two. And so, sure, there's some times where I reminisce or I look back or I think of, that was fun. Ultimately, it wasn't beneficial and it wasn't something that really served me. And so right now it looks like, a lot less going out, a lot more coffee meetups with people instead of happy hour meetups with people. It looks like also on company trips. I'm not the one at the swim up bar at the all-inclusive resort anymore. I'm on the beach reading a book and chilling. And so that's kind of how that looks. But how I've also replaced it, and something I've been actually practicing for like 12 years, is a morning routine. I call it the sacred start. So to get myself right and start it every day, sacred start, there's 5 practices with it. So it's Bible time, it's journal time, it's prayer time, it's affirmations from scripture, and it's exercise. So for me, there's nothing more important than those 2 hours every morning with Jesus and myself to get myself right. Mentally right, emotionally right, spiritually right, so I can go and I can be my best self for my family and for my workers as well, for my coworkers and my team. And so that's been very practical. I would say every morning, that's huge. And then also at night, I have an evening alarm that goes off. So around 9:20, my evening alarm goes off. So I'm not up late, just chilling and not that, and I guess some people struggle with that at night. They're like, well, I might as well just pop a weed gummy or have some drinks at night. But I'd say going to bed at a decent time obviously helps. My sleep is way better now, not being buzzed up on something at night. And then just, weekends, obviously I have 2 kids, so 3 and 5, so they keep me busy. I'm not going out partying. I'm not going out on golf outings with people. I'm not going to watch football games at the bars or anything. And not that I was that much before my transformation, but it's just something that just I don't look forward to it. It's not something I'm like craving or desire. So it's a different way of living. It's again, I feel fresh. I feel cleansed. I don't feel ever I can't say ever sluggish, but I don't have those lagging effects from my choices prior.
Yeah.
So yeah, looks like a lot of family time, a lot of church time, a lot of peace time. And that's really what it looks like.
Do you have the same vocation? What is the 40 Forge? What is the 40 Forge?
So to answer your question, I sell Cutco knives. So direct sales. So I run an office for them. I run most of Wisconsin and the Upper Peninsula. And I've been doing that for the last 21 years.
I would challenge anybody to say that Cutco knives aren't fantastic.
Yeah, they're unbelievable. Yeah,
I've known, I've just about everybody I've ever known has given it a shot, didn't do well. But as a result of them, I've used them a million times. I'm like legit. Yeah. This is where it's awesome. At.
So being in direct sales, Ryan, obviously I can work with as many reps as possible, make as many sales as possible. So I've done that the whole time. It's just been cool, like a switch off of peace and joy too, or a switch on of that and off of my ego, my worth, my identity being in my work and my success. And I still kick butt. I still try to do my best in work, but it's really like a regimented, like I treat it like a 9 to 5. I'm only thinking about it from 9 to 5 roughly. And I'm not taking any scheduled meetings. I'm not grinding it out. And sure, I could do a little more in business, but it's not worth my happiness. And funny enough, since I cut out, all the extracurriculars and I focus fully on building God's kingdom instead of my kingdom, in 2024, had our best year I've ever had. And this year we're having our best year ever again. So it's funny how that works when you give up that and you release that control. If you're, a Jesus person, you're letting God take control, but doing your best, let God do the rest. It's funny how things work out and how, when you actually keep a Sabbath and you actually honor him, how you actually do more business instead of grinding it out for 7 days a week.
And for anybody listening, my audience is a mixture, much like myself. I'm still not that I participate in heathen behavior any longer, but I have a piece of my character that is that person. So the Sabbath is a day of rest. And so the idea is that God not only rests himself, but he tells us it's a part of the program. It's a part of the thing, and if you want to do well, it is imperative that you participate and rest, even though it would not be participation. It would be just not participating. And so that the Sabbath is a real thing. I have never heard any single person who's participated in a day off, whether I know some people do it on Saturday, some people actually do it Sunday, but I've never heard a single person who has not said, as a result of practicing the Sabbath, meaning a day of total rest, turn it off, turn the phone off, be with your family. I've never heard a person not just tell me that everything else gets better. Production gets better, revenue, income, everything else becomes better as a result of that day being, just without. And it's counterintuitive, bro. It's counterintuitive when you think about it. It's like, but I've never heard anybody, I've never successfully pulled it off. I know that is important because it's hard, man. It is hard. Yeah. It's hard to just put it down, right? Everything. And so, well, good on you for that, man. Yeah. And pursuing the kingdom of God. And I do think that I know when something, and I'm speaking of a very current circumstance for myself, there's something that I've been participating in and I can't help but feel I'm moving away from God. I'm like, I don't think that this is really getting me closer. And then boom, I get a phone call for another position in a different organization that's nonprofit, very much practices biblical principles in their organization. And I can't help but feel like, yes, that's my steps being illuminated by God. Like, hey, over here, man, like you're over here and you're kind of getting away from me. How about you kind of make this move and get a little closer? And I'm at that juncture right now.
Yeah.
So, but it's a
listen. Yeah. That's the Holy Spirit, nudging you. He's like, hey, what are you doing? Hey, if you just like, make a little bit of a shift or a little bit of a detour from what your plan is, and God's got a better plan. And so if you're following him, and if you look at the Bible as like a self-help book, like it's funny we read self-help books and we're like trying to take all the notes and get everything and like, oh, how do you market better? How do you sell? How do you build wealth more? All this. Then we get to the Bible and we're like, oh, what's with all this? All these rules or all these recommendations like the Sabbath. It's like, well, if you look at it as a self-help book and you just look at, okay, here's how God designed us. He designed us to rest, to have a Sabbath, to do X, Y, and Z. Man, if I get closer to that, I'm going to be more filled with peace and joy and happiness because that's the way, he designed us and designed it for us. So those little nudges, whether you believe it's your conscience or the Holy Spirit, like we should listen to those because,
it is. I just heard somebody use the acronym for the Bible, basic instructions before you leave Earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, all right, I can get down with that.
Sounds good.
I know that a lot of people that are listening, a lot of people that they found success in recovery through AA, right?
Mm-hmm.
And classic AA speaks about a power greater than yourself. Mm-hmm. But man, I agree with you wholeheartedly that once I had kind of, and again, this is back to the break me part, right?
Yep.
Like when I started learning, because I have not always been a believer. And so it's rather new for me. I'd say about 5 years. Mm-hmm. But the more I had dug into scripture, right, the more informed I was about current life. And so, I feel bad when people kind of dismiss the Bible as some kind of old book that's not useful, because if you just look at it as how many times it's been reproduced over time, there's a reason for that. Stuff that's been around for 2,000 years, there's a reason, right? There's a reason. And so if you were to kind of look at it that way, right? If you were to just look, you're talking about self-help books, and that's the oldest one that I know of, and so people are so quick, for their own reasons or their own hangups to dismiss the Bible. But man, is there some useful stuff in there, right? Applicable, useful stuff that if you were to, just look at it in interpretation that maybe, doesn't lose you. Like maybe King James is a little tough to grasp. I get it. But like, there's interpretations of it that is just spot on so many times. Well, I mean, what else, or how else are you applying, the pursuit of God's kingdom? That's big.
Yeah. So a few things as you're, and also to kind of answer your question before about the 40 Forge. So what I feel God has put in my heart now is I am pursuing. And again, it's not up to me. It's up to God on the success of these things. I put it out there, but we'll see. Is I have a Wake Up Jesus People book, Life-Giving Disciplines to Awaken the Warrior Within. And really great. Talks a lot about the sacred start and Sabbaths and fasting and prayer and all the cool things along with success and overcoming fear and keeping God number one and having dreams and ambitions in life and all of that. So that's been great. So that came out this year. Then also with it, there's the companion journal as well. So we got that. And then also with it is the 40 Forge Challenge. And so the 40 Forge Challenge is basically, to kind of give a preview, it's basically a Jesus version of 75 Hard. And if someone is considering, and they're in a tough spot, and they're feeling like maybe like me, and they run that track before of like, this isn't looking good, or they're turned up, like they are gone. Like if you need a reset or restart, I have something called the 40 Forge. So think about forging, blacksmith in the fire, forging, let's say a metal, a sword. It's heating up, it's uncomfortable, and then and then they're pounding it out, right? They're forming it, they're forging it, just like God does with us. And so all these tests, all these things, all these fire moments to heat us up and then mold us is setting us up to be the best version of ourselves. And so the 40 Forge Challenge there's 3 versions of it. There's a couple pretty hard ones, and then there's a basic introductory one. And so, based on time, if you want me to go into the harder ones, I can.
Yeah,
but the initial one,
when you say hard, was it?
Yeah.
Is it just more? Well, just so everybody knows, 75 hard, because we'll digress real quickly. 75 hard was Andy Frisella came up with this. It's basically like 2 workouts a day. Right. Yep. One of them has to be outside. Yep. You have to read for 10 or 15 minutes a day. So you got to read every day. Yep. You've got to drink like a gallon of water. It's basic stuff, but 75 days, and if you miss a day, you got to start over again. And so people rant and rave about what this has done for their lives, 75 hard. And so, so that's what 75 hard is. And I'm imagining that the 40 Forge is, definitely probably got some scripture in there. So, so what does it look like? We'll start with start with the hardest one, right? Because, it's just like sales, right? You start with the highest price, and then it's like, oh, that's not so bad.
Drop down. See, what's up.
That last one seems easy compared to the other 2.
Yeah. 40. So 40 days is biblical. So when you think about different days to create habits, right? Based on whether you're in AA or in a 75 hard, or you see the studies like, how many days exactly is it? But I say 40 days because it's biblical. And 40 is a number that has meaning behind it. There's about 120 examples in the Bible of 40 being used. And whether it's Moses on Mount Sinai before receiving the 10 Commandments, or Israel wandering around in the wilderness for 40 years before going to the Promised Land, or the flood, 40 days and 40 nights, or Goliath's taunt towards the Israelites before David knocked him out, or Jesus on earth post-resurrection before he ascended to heaven. All these instances of the 100+ examples often marked a time of testing, preparation, or transition, where God prepared his people for a new stage of his plan. So 40 Forge is 40 days to go through this challenge. I'll start with the hard one first, but the hard version is Daniel fast plus protein. So Daniel fast is biblical. It's basically like nuts, fruits, veggies, things of that nature, but plus protein because you should be working out, getting swole, staying strong. So it's a diet, Daniel fast plus protein. It's abstaining from drugs, alcohol, and porn for 40 days. No social media for 40 days. Exercising for 40 minutes a day. Instead of reading 10 pages of a self-help book, it's reading 10 pages of the Bible a day. Praying daily, journal daily, drinking a gallon of water daily, and worship music only. So that's the hard version. The light version is a little bit less than that. But the Ignite version is the entry-level one that I'll say, just for time's sake. But it's so simple, just because I've had close to 100 people go through this program. I started it this year. It's been so cool to see the fruit and growth from it, but I just feel it's a little intimidating still. So I have a very easy entry-level version that all it is, it's the Ignite, to ignite your path, right? Ignite, get started. And it is still no alcohol, no drugs, no porn for 40 days. Exercise at least 15 minutes a day, get in your Bible daily and pray daily. That's it. So that's the entry-level version. So I'll have a lot of people that go through, I run this about 6 times a year. And there's like specific dates. Someone can do it for free and do it on their own. I don't care. But if you want to be with the support and with the groups doing it, there are different dates on there. But what was I saying with that? When it comes to a lot of people can start with just the Ignite challenge, like just get it started, and then decide the second or third round to go for the light version or the hard version. But that's what the 40 Forge is.
Yeah. Dude, that is awesome. And it's always funny because whenever you mention these things, right? I'm sure you can see when somebody hits their bugaboo, right? Like mine was when you mentioned the social media, but it was, and I would like to say that I'm more of a creator than a consumer. So I'm always putting out content, but I immediately felt like because when you say something and say somebody was addicted to porn, when you say the porn part, they're going to have like the hair's going to go, like they're not going to say anything typically, but they'll be, oh gosh, like they'll get intimidated by some portion of that. And as soon as you had mentioned the no social media, and I was like, I don't know if I could do that, but that's the point. That's the idea, is that to stretch yourself. And so that's so very interesting, man. And that's a huge success. You've had all those people go through it. All right, now, when you're communicating this, right, and I'm getting that you're not like a massive social media guy. Are you sharing this, in the church, or like, how are you, really telling people about it?
Sure. So I still am on social media, and it's still a struggle for me. But yeah, I share in social media. I do some ads and things like that. But again, I'm just a normal guy. I have no like proof or credibility, I guess. So it's that challenge, right? I am torn between, okay, I have to trust God. I need to just like stay in my lane. The right people are going to be in, the right people are going to see this. And it's like, sure, I want to blow it up and have 1 million people go through it and all that, but it's not realistic with where I'm at. But it's also a testament to when it does go big, or to when something does happen, like I can't explain it all. It wasn't me at all. It was all God. And so that's where I like some of these situations, Ryan, where it's like, I have goals and I have missions, but I have to submit and surrender to God's plan and have patience, because I want to be able to be a part of things that I can only explain by God, and not my own ability. Sure, He's blessed me with some good abilities, but I mean, I have so many faults and so many things that I just, even being on podcasts, right? It's like, all right, God, show up. I pray before every podcast. All right, it's all on you. I'm here, but shine through me. So that's where it is. To answer your question, I could do so much better and so much more. I'm just not willing to put forth that much time on social media, as well as don't know what I'm doing yet to really get it out there, I'd say. But yeah, some people in the church, some people through work, it's been cool. There's been a lot of randoms too that I'm like, oh, that's cool. Random person from Pennsylvania. Okay, let's go.
Right. I think that's awesome, man. Well, in my head, I had kind of pictured you being that person speaking about it a lot, like maybe at church. I feel like, but that's I think that, as believers, having something specifically for people who, that would get them excited, because
Right.
it does have that element of scripture in there. And you reference that. I think that's very cool. I think that's very cool.
Thank you.
And yeah, man, anybody who hasn't gone through some type of a challenge. And I say that term because you hear it used in like the description or the nomenclature of some of these programs and ideas. But the point is to change yourself and make yourself uncomfortable. And so that's where I see that's a massive value. And I mean, I can only imagine that there's some people like telling you what happened on the other end of it. And I'm sure it's awesome, right?
It's so great. Yeah. And that's what keeps me going. But also, I mean, I can only imagine if like a whole church, right, did it for a January 1st kickoff, or like during Lent, or an organization all did it, as a group. It's just, yeah, it is powerful. I think it doesn't have to be the 40 Forge, but just if everyone's together growing, ideally growing in their Jesus journey, but also personally, professionally, mentally, physically, emotionally, all that. There's power when you're doing it as a group. When you have a challenge, like you mentioned, it's so easy to coast and go, okay, I'm okay. I should get back in the gym. I should quit that addiction. Maybe next month, or it's not that bad. Before you know it, it's years down the road. You've just gotten worse. And, or it's amazing the trajectory and how different you are in 1, 2, 3 years of just getting serious and focused on something.
Now, wake up Jesus, people.
Yep.
What's what is it? Is it the same principle, and that's just like your literary version, or is it different, or is it?
So it's two things. Ryan, it's first of all the waking up, doing the sacred start, starting your day off, because throughout the day I'm focused on work, or I'm tired at night, or I just don't feel like doing anything. And so if you're waiting to exercise or waiting to do Bible time or spend time with God at the end of the day, I want to start my day with energy. I want to start my day with God. I want to put on that armor and be ready to take on the challenges of the day. So I'm really challenging people to wake up early, get a sacred start in, get everything ready to go in the morning. So that's part of it. I'd probably say a third of the book is all about morning routines and the sacred start and all that. And then another third are just general biblical Christian practices to help you enjoy life more. Whether it's worship music, fasting, Sabbath, keeping your priorities straight. In church, I learned how, you want to keep God number one, and then you number two, wife number 3 or significant other number 3, kids number 4, and then family or spiritual family number 5. And if you're not filling up with God first and filling yourself up next, you aren't that great for your kids or your family or your others who you're serving. And so many times, so many years, I claimed God was number 1, but really work was number 1. And it just wasn't healthy, which caused me to, chill and veg out and, go into some substances. But it is about some of those practices. And then the other third of the book is again, waking up and getting in the game of life as a Jesus person. And so, maybe the analogy you may have heard before about being a spectator versus a participant, right? In the football games, my wonderful Packers, it's, there's only 50 guys on the team or 22 guys on the field at a time. And there's tens of thousands of spectators. And that's how, really a lot of people's Jesus journey is, that they feel it. They want to have more faith. They want to believe in it more. They want to be more than just a Sunday Christian, but they're just on the sidelines, spectating, numbing themselves and living off the pleasures of the world, which are not long lasting. They're not fulfilling them, or they're addicted. And it's like, let's wake up. Like, what are we doing? Why are we, just wasting time on just dumb arguments or about being scared, or just, we're wasting a lot of time. We're only here for 100 years and then we have eternity. So like, how are we using those 100 years? And how are we doing that to, like, how many people are going to be in heaven because of you? How are your kids? How is your family? What's that legacy? And I think a lot of people, with their addictions, whether it's to drugs and alcohol, or it's to business and success and wealth, and then they're leaving their family behind and they're a really bad, just husband or father, let's say. That's not a good legacy. You can have all the money in the world, but if you kind of, if you're not there for your family, right? So is that worth it? Is that trade-off worth it? And not that you can't have both, but it's just, I think we're chasing the wrong things. I think we're zombies. I think a lot of people are sleepwalking through life, thinking everything's going to be okay without taking action, without waking up, not getting serious about their faith or their future. And so that's part of the book as well.
That's awesome. And it hits home for the people that are, actively participating, or, even like social media, right? Like it's like you can be in the audience, you can be a consumer. Most people are. It's just kind of how it is. As you pointed out, the math is rather simple, right? There's only a few people in the game. The majority are not. However, when it comes to something like faith, you can live it, you can participate, you can be active, and there's no real barrier to that. Some people might perceive that there is, but there's just not, because it doesn't have to be like you're baptizing people on the weekends, right? Like, it doesn't have to be that. It could be as simple as spreading a good word. That's what it says in the Bible. It's just a good word is it's a biblical way to spread joy. And I think that it's so many times people forego the action and choose to be passive, right? And so, yeah, I have found, and for the sake of people that are maybe in some period in their own recovery journey, right? Because I think recovery journeys are synonymous with clarity. And you have spoken a lot about that, Jason, right? You've mentioned how you have become more clear at different points. And so I know that when I was in the trenches, is what I call it. Like when I was like actively using, and we're talking like a liter of vodka, there's zero clarity, right? And so there was, I just had to stop that to survive. So, there's that part, which is like an entirely different part than when you've stacked some days and you start to get this, you gain this clarity. And then I think back to a 1 year sobriety point, right? That was a very big change in my level of clarity. But then it continued years later. My clarity continued to increase. And so I think that anybody, wherever they are, whether they're actively battling an addiction or they're thinking, well, I could go without this thing, but I don't, right? Well, then you can make a little choice. You can switch something up, and then you can gain or increase your clarity, right? And with that gained clarity, you could then become instead of passive or an observer. And so what you're doing out there is absolutely phenomenal, right? And so, yeah, man, I really let everybody know, where can we, is your book on Amazon? Is your website, like, what's going on, brother?
Yeah, I'd also, if I can pile on to what you said, is a little cap on that, is that, yeah, if you think you can't go without it, you are addicted. If you can't go 40 days without alcohol, drugs, porn, social media, whatever it is, it is an addiction, and we all are. I mean, it's very easy to be addicted to something. And so if you hear that, you hear about the 40 Forge, other challenges, heck, even if like you still participate in some of that stuff, a little bit here and there throughout the year, but then you at least 40 days to know, okay, I'm not addicted to it. Again, I'm not saying that's recommended. I'm saying at least do that to prove you're not addicted. And maybe that sets up the rest of your future. Maybe that sets up a new identity. Maybe after those 40 days, you're like, this feels amazing. I'm just going to keep this up. So that's my little recommendation for those who are still on the fence of, should I cut it out? Should I take a challenge or not?
Yeah.
But
yeah, a good point. I know a ton of people that they go like a couple weeks. They do like, because I lived in Vegas, man. I've known a lot of people, and I've seen a lot of people do these little they're like, no, I went a week without any drugs or alcohol. And I'm like, yeah, but hey, man. Yeah. But at least at the end of the 40 days, you're going to have some gained clarity.
Right.
And I've been at a point in my life where it was like 72 hours but I was like just getting this hint of clarity. And I'm like, okay, this is my chance, So at the end of 40 days, somebody could have the chance of having more clarity and making a real assessment. Is it a problem? Is it not? Well, at least after 40 days, you can make a better judgment than you would if you hadn't have gone without, right? And abstained, right? Because that's where the clarity will come through. But yeah, no, tell us where to find you, brother.
Sure. Yeah, so the books, they're on Amazon. You can go to also wakeupjesuspeople.com. That's the 40 Forge Challenge. There's, more things with the book and the journal on there. Also on social media, just my name, Jason Heinritz. You can follow up there and send a DM or anything, but that's pretty much where to find me.
Awesome. All right, guys. So this has been a believer-focused episode of The Next Fix. Jason, I appreciate you being on, brother. I appreciate what you do. Thank you for that, and keep doing it, brother. Until the next episode, guys, it's been The Next Fix.